Hello to a few people who watch these videos. Today I'm going to be doing a in-depth guide, or at least I think in-depth guide on the character of Gryphon, mainly talking about his chain finishers. I'm not going to be discussing his feats right now because I don't have the character, so I can't really talk about his feats because I haven't really experienced them. I am also going to do individual guides on probably Peacekeeper, just the characters that were changed in the testing grounds. I may only do Peacekeeper though, just because the other ones aren't really super substantial changes. Except for Warden. That one's pretty big. To start off, we have his basic chains. You can do light, light, into light. Light, guard switch, light, into another light. You pretty much just mix up any variation of light and heavy. You can delay your light for a lot, but on console that's not exactly amazing. There's really no reason to. On top of just also having an undodgeable light finisher, his heavies have hyper armor. It starts up pretty late though, so that means that if you get deflected, you'll get hit out of your heavy instead of just hyper armoring through it like a raider would. His bash you can get just as the third hit in your chain. The way the chain finishers work reminds me a little bit of Valkyrie. Except instead of just having like the side heavy to catch dodges, just because the side heavy seems to be pretty slow, I don't think it'd actually be able to catch dodges very well. Instead, he has the undodgeable light. You can also do a shortcut into his chain of finishers, which is a move inspired by Kensei, his Helm Splitter. You can go straight into your chain finishers, dodge forward light. He also has a move very similar to Nature's Wrath in his dodge forward heavy. It can't be feinted, but it does go straight into your chain finishers. Unfortunately, it doesn't really help with any of the punishes, at least that I can see. So overall, pretty useless unless you're trying to catch rolls. You can, however, delay the dodge forward light by a lot. That wasn't the dodge forward light. That one was. Since you can delay the dodge forward light a lot, it'll be harder for people to actually parry it. You could do something that I like to do a lot with Berserker, which is sometimes just try and bait people out, make them think you're doing the dodge forward light, and instead do the dodge forward heavy. It works on some people, not everyone, and since it also doesn't have hyper armor, you won't just be able to like go through if they try to option select it. Speaking of option selecting though, his Parry is very similar to Berserkers in that if you actually option select something, it forces you to do a light. So if you hear that, I'm option selecting, not pressing anything else, and it's immediately making me do a light. That's going to mess with parry punishes a lot, especially if you just are one of those people that zones from neutral just to try and get light parries, instead of just, either trying to block them or just try to parry them normally on prediction. But other than if you do the option select and you get the light, you can either do light light in your chain finishers. You could do light guard switch light into your chain finishers. Obviously the guard switch light is not going to be guaranteed, but instead of doing 12 and 3 for 15, it'll do 12 and 13, which is substantially more damage, and that'll come in handy in his out of stamina punishes, but I'll get to those later. Another way to get even more damage if you have the stamina, if you just do a normal parry, is just zone into light and then go into his chain finishers. That'll do 15 and 13, which is the most, but it takes up a lot of stamina because it is a zone. Next is going to be his light parry punish, which is just going to be a normal top heavy or side heavy. They do the same amount of damage. Something to note about his parries that's very nice is that whenever you do parry something, if you input the window for the punish early, then you get hyper armor on that move. So whenever you're ganking people, it's very nice for that. I think it's very nice that the hero, not nice whenever you're playing him, but just nice in general, is that his lights are not enhanced. because that was really annoying with Warmonger, and especially since he has such a strong bash, being 500 milliseconds on console, that's being unreactable, and dealing 28 damage. It's very nice to have them, you know, bounce off your guard, because most people don't just go for wildly light parries, especially since the heavy damage is so low for most characters. Overall, Oldencross's damage seems to be pretty normal, which, since he's such a strong, at least now strong, healing character, I would have expected his damage to be, like, less than ideal. Well, I thought of it either being his damage is going to be very little to compensate for his healing, or his lights to be like JJ's, where they both do 15, which luckily is not the case. 15 damage lights, not amazing. 13 and 12 is still a lot, or just a guaranteed 15 if you land one, is very nice. Gryphon's running attack, just a no supertes. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it puts you in frame advantage. So if you throw a light, they're not going to be able to interrupt you. So if you want to, you can just go straight into your chains from there. You do light, kick, into the punish there. Moving on to his out of stamina punishes. These ones are a little interesting. For the parry, it's pretty easy. It's just light, guard switch light, kick into heavy. That does a total of 53 damage, I believe. Yeah, 53 damage. You could also zone into light to do a little bit more damage, but that's going to take up a lot of stamina. So if you have the stamina, then go ahead and do it. The thing that you don't really want to do, though, is try and do the lights to the same side, or else the kick is going to hit their wake-up armor. Another thing you can do, the kick already gives an execution. This just overall does less damage. It's just 2 lights into the top heavy. This is for the out of stamina guard break throw, and they do a lot of damage. You do the dodge forward light into kick into heavy for the out of stamina throw. It doesn't matter what side you actually throw them to. The out of stamina heavy one makes it so they recover a bit too fast. Just to show you that it's true, I'm going to set them to dodge. Gives you a total of that much damage. The reason that it's not the same as the out of stamina parry punish is because throwing someone brings you directly into your chain finishers, so you wouldn't actually be able to do a light into a kick. Overall, his punishes are very simple. There's nothing too amazing. The only thing to really keep in mind is if for some reason you try to option select, be ready that it does an automatic light, so you don't accidentally throw a light to the same side again. Another tool that Oldencross has from neutral is going to be his shove. It looks really slow from my perspective, but let's see. Yeah, there it is. It's actually very fast. You have to be paying attention to actually dodge. If you dodge a little late, luckily he doesn't have any unblockables from neutral, so as soon as you see orange you can dodge. His normal bash guarantees a light, which then goes straight into your chain finishers. Something nice about the kick is that the input to actually do the heavy is actually a little bit strict. So if you accidentally do a kick, you might not actually be able to react to that. And then, like, do the heavy. So if you get someone that doesn't know what they're doing with the character and they accidentally do a kick, they probably won't actually punish it, which is a nice touch. I'm going to go a little more in-depth with his chain finishers here. The first one that he has is just his hyper armor heavy. The hyper armor comes out pretty late, so you'll probably be interrupted. It does a little bit more, 32 instead of 30 on top, You get your chain finishers immediately if you do a throw. And unfortunately, if you throw someone into a wall, you can't actually get the guaranteed kick. If I had him set to guard there, if you see his guard comes up, it's because the stun of the move, whenever someone's stunned and then you use a move that would stun them again, then it pretty much just cancels the recovery. So that's just so bash characters can't, like, two bash characters can't just infinitely bash you to death. Unfortunately, it's also here because the kick doesn't wall splat. So you can block and parry that after you throw them. So the only thing that you really can do is the top heavy. You can do side heavy, but it does less damage. As for range, it doesn't really matter. You can throw them anywhere. They won't be able to block it. Something nice about Gryphon's out of stamina punish is since you get a kick after, if someone's not quite in range to ledge, then it's gonna ledge them. You can do the black prior thing, which is, you know, not actually throw out attacks and only bash. By doing that, his bash input is just like Gladiator's toe stab, it's back and square. Getting the light after, it does 13 all sides. The reason it's 13 is because it's his second chain light, but after you do the bash, it goes straight into your chain finishers. The main mix-up that this character is going to have is just going to be either the kick or the undodgeable light. The undodgeable light does exactly half that the kick does, but you know, 14 damage is still pretty good for light attack. Whenever I first initially started looking at the character, I thought that maybe you'd actually be able to get the unblockable heavy. I'm still not sure exactly if you can, just because of how slow it is. Not unblockable heavy, hyper armor heavy. Kind of like with how Valkyrie does crap. You might be able to, but it's definitely not going to be reliable whenever you do it. Just because most vanguards or heavies, well, I guess any character that doesn't have a reflex guard, their guard stays up whenever they dodge. So that means that if you happen to throw the heavy to the side that their guard's on, then you pretty much get blocked, even if you read the dodge right. And on top of that, some characters, whenever they dodge, their guards actually move to the side that they dodge. Like Kensei, that's more of just because he has a pseudo deflect though. And some characters, their guard stays on the same side. Something to keep in mind about the bash as well is that you can't punish it with the guard break. It's very similar to how Shaman's Bite works, where if someone dodges it, then you can just do it again, unless you do a really, really early dodge. The shove you can't punish with normal guard breaks, so you have to have a dodge attack in order to punish that. It doesn't have hyper armor though, so you could just light someone if you, like, with prediction, I guess. Overall, Gryphon has I feel like he's going to be one of those characters where there's just a lot of different ways to play him, kind of like Gladiator. Just because of, with Gladiator, it's just because you can play more defensively and use his, like, stamina drain, or you could try to, if you're on console especially, just light spam. You don't really see a lot of Gladiator, but there's a lot of ways you can play Gladiator. You can just try to go for toe stabs, because toe stab pretty much can't be punished. It's pretty similar to Olden Cross. You can either just try to go for your chain finishers with lights. Most people will probably actually throw attacks because they want to not be terrible people. Some people will just go for the bash, which if you have a dodge attack, that's nice. If you don't, then that really sucks. But another thing that he can do is his dodge attack, which from the voice line I can only think is from John Hu. With his dodge attack, that goes straight into his chain finishers. So very similar to John Hu. I've heard some people say that it's based off of Kensei's like Swift Strikes, but it goes to the same side, so I'm not really sure why they think that. Also, he doesn't even have a voice line for his dodge attack. So I would say it's definitely based off of John Hu's dodge attack. You can go straight into your chain finishers. It's pretty fast. You can target swap with it. It does 16 damage, which is a lot more than John Hughes. John Hughes only does 9 damage, so that's 7 more. For Olden Cross, the dodge attack can only come from one side, so that's most likely why. Whenever you see someone dodge, he doesn't have a dodge bash, but you can dodge then immediately bash. So, actually I don't even think I can make the bot do that. Let's just say that he tries to parry my dodge attack on prediction. And judging by how long it actually takes for that to come out, then you may just be able to dodge and then bash. So that could in itself be a mix-up. Another thing that you can do is delay your dodge attack a lot. Olden Cross's dodge attack, since you can delay it so much, can actually be used to option select a little bit by extending your dodge, similar to Orochi. Well, there's a lot of characters. And a lot of times it's just matchup specific as well. Ooh, okay. So, Olden Cross can extend his dodge even to dodge Warden's 50-50. For parrying and revenge, it's pretty much just exactly the same. Same with the throw punish. It just does more damage because you are in revenge. For the parry punish, it does a total of 70 damage. 37, 17, and 16. For the throw, it's the same thing, dodge forward light into kick, which is 19 and 37, which does a total of 56 damage. After you do the kick, and then if it whiffs, you can't actually do a follow-up afterwards. That means you can't do some weird, like, after Conqueror's, after he soft feints from his heavy into the bash. It's the only bash that he has that afterwards, if someone dodges it, he can actually stuff the guard break with it, like a light afterwards. His other bashes, you can't actually throw a light after. But with Olden Cross, you can't really do anything like that. You can't really act afterwards. And there's a pretty good amount of recovery, so someone will just be able to dodge and then get pretty much anything that they want. The window for inputting an attack after you get a parry in order to activate the hyper armor it's not insanely, well, it's not even very strict, but it's not the entire time. So if you delay it a lot, then you won't be able to actually get it. But if you delay it a pretty good amount, then you will be able to. You can see whenever the hyper armor activates. If you input it as soon as you parry every time, then you don't really have to worry about anything. Now, the main thing that'd be used for is if you get a light parry whenever you're in a team fight, because whenever you get a heavy parry, the only thing you can really do maybe is zone, which also could be good. It's not unblockable like with JJ's after parry, but still pretty good. It should hit, his hitboxes are very big boy. Overall, there's just a lot of stuff that you can actually, a lot of mix-ups you can do from the heavy parry. And you'll probably find two different groups of people that will either light directly into his chain finishers, or either light and then change guard direction and light, kind of like how you see a lot of shinobis do that, just because it does a lot more damage, but it's not confirmed. But at least from a console player's perspective, there's not really a lot you can actually do. Overall, I don't really think that his undodgeable light's going to be utilized very much, especially after if people go into the testing grounds, they're probably not going to use it a lot, because some people might actually be playing PK and they changed her deflect into the same input as her dodge attack. So what that means is that if they accidentally dodge in the right way, then they get a deflect, because deflect doesn't really do a lot of damage, but it'd probably be best to throw the undodgeable top light instead of one of the sides if you're fighting someone who has a deflect. But someone might read that, so be careful about how smart your opponent is. Anyways, boys, I know that since this is a trending topic right now, Gryphon, that this video is probably going to get more traction than normal. I'm going to say that I'm not going to remind you to subscribe, but by doing that, I'm reminding you to subscribe. So, am I just an elite douche tuber, or just a 5-head gamer of the epic variety? You decide, boys. Bye-bye.